Guys, we're about to get the best One Piece chapter of the year. Any other chapter can come out, it doesn't matter. This one, honestly, has everything it needs to be the best One Piece chapter of the year. After 8 years since Imu's first appearance, we're finally getting the big reveal of what Imu truly looks like. And no guys, we are not getting Luffy's mother as Imu-sama, we are not getting black sperm as Imu-sama, and we are definitely not getting the theory that Imu looks like Nefertari Lily. This is a completely different appearance. I'm going to narrate and summarize the chapter, and at the same time, I'll be giving you my thoughts as we go. So let's do this. The title of this chapter is The Incarnation of Nerona Imu. The 5 elders try to stop Imu from leaving the castle, suggesting that they send an admiral or go themselves. Honestly, after what they pulled in Egghead, it would have been better to send an admiral, because Kizaru at the very least actually had to help Luffy survive, while the 5 elders couldn't even manage that. But anyway, in Elbaph, Gerd finds Summer's heart and Zoro says it needs to be destroyed. Imu appears inside a magic circle at Orist Castle and starts transforming in the middle of a massive burst of Conqueror's Haki. Now, like I told you in the last video, in my wildest dreams, I would love it if Imu showed up in Elbaph the same way those giant shadows appeared back in the Thriller Bark arc. Because if that happened, we'd finally get confirmation that those shadows were actually Imu-sama. Oda would be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. But still, that doesn't mean it can't happen later in the Elbaph arc. Who knows, maybe Luffy grabs Imu and throws him out of Elbaph the same way he threw Kizaru in Egghead. So moving on. The rest of the spoiler, guys, is basically all about Imu's appearance. So let's talk about that. Imu is a man with a beautiful face, black skin, long white hair, wings, horns, and a demon tail. Overall, a very distinct design. Distinct, guys? That is literally the exact description of a Lunarian. Guys, seriously, come on. No, really, let me get to that in a second. And on top of that, we also got the introduction box saying the following. One of the 20 founders of the world government, special power, devil fruit, king of the world, Saint Nerona Imu. If you remember, back in the Reverie arc, King Nefertari Cobra mentioned that one of the 20 kings who founded the world government was named Nerona. So we already suspected that one of those 20 rulers, or more specifically, one of those 20 kings, had become the current king of the world. The only thing we didn't know was what he actually looked like. So let's break it down. First, the description, then we comment on it. Imu stands at the highest tower of Orist Castle. He releases an immense Conqueror's Haki. Some of the houses and trees around Elbaph begin coming to life, laughing with evil faces. Holy hell, that was insane, right? Imu appears to be a handsome man, surrounded by black clouds. Imu has long horns, similar to Kaido's and the ancient giants, but they curve twice, forming the letter S. Imu isn't wearing anything on his upper body, but he does wear a cloak with a symbol. Only half of his body is visible. His skin is similar to a Lunarian's, like King's. He also has a demon-like tail, the same one that pierced Sabo. Imu also has white circular tattoos all over his body, including an eye-shaped tattoo on his right hand. And he has a tattoo on the left side of his face, exactly like the Lunarians, like King, and exactly like him, Monkey D. Dragon. Guys, come on. Imu has the same black Hagoromo cloud seen around awakened zone users like Lucci and the 5 elders. But instead of the typical spiral cloud pattern, these clouds have eyes, similar to a biblically accurate ophonym, the kind people always post online. Imu wields a polearm. The base is surrounded by black clouds, and the blade is zigzag-shaped, curving at the tip. You can even see a little blood coming from the left side of his mouth. End of chapter and break next week. Guys, I'm literally putting my phone down because there's so much here I don't even know where to start. So let's go. About Imu's appearance, we now have confirmation that Imu is in fact a man. First, this is not a woman. Second, this is not Luffy's mother. And third, he does not look like Nefertari Lily. Guys, that theory made perfect sense. As we know, Nefertari Lily disappeared after leaving the Holy Land and trying to return to Alabasta. So it was very easy to imagine that her body had been taken over by IMU Nerona. And from there, you could go with the classic body swap or personality swap angle using the powers of the Ope Ope no Mi. And with Imu's obsession with Lily, it would make sense for him to have literally taken over her body. That would explain why her body disappeared so mysteriously. Guys, I'm convinced Oda seriously considered canonizing that theory, but unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, he chose to go in a much stranger and much more surprising direction. There were endless fan arts portraying Imu as a woman, and more people were convinced that was going to be confirmed, but it wasn't. And honestly, that's okay, because at least this way, we actually got surprised. Second point, we now have confirmation that Imu has a devil fruit. Literally a devil fruit. Now, we still need more information here, because up until now, the suspicion was that Imu might be an existence equivalent to Nika, someone who once appeared in the world, was recognized as a divinity, and after dying, had their essence channeled into a devil fruit. Then, during the Void Century, a boy named Joy Boy would have eaten that fruit and upon awakening its power, also awakened Nika's essence inside his body. And then, after Joy Boy's death and Luffy's birth, the same cycle would have happened again. So the main question was, is Imu in existence equivalent to Nika? A being who has stayed alive until today, never died, and therefore never had his existence transferred into a fruit? Apparently not. It really looks like Imu consumed a devil fruit. So maybe, instead of Imu being equivalent to Nika, he's actually closer to Luffy, both possessing a devil fruit, and maybe both carrying a divine entity inside those fruits. And finally, about Imu's appearance. If Imu really does descend from the Lunarian race, then that probably means he was the one most responsible for wiping out his own people. I seriously doubt Oda is going to go in another direction and say humans, or some other race, exterminated the Lunarians while Imu was just the last Avenger or survivor. No, based on everything we know about Imu, it seems much more likely that he personally caused the extinction of his own race. But that opens up other questions. For example, why was King imprisoned? Was he some kind of backup body? Where are his parents? Who knows, right? A lot of people are already comparing Imu to Itachi because of that possibility. The idea that he exterminated his own clan. But there's a whole layer of nuance Oda could explore there. Or maybe not. Anyway, I'm insanely excited to see Imu's real appearance after everything we've gotten from these spoilers. There have already been a bunch of AI-generated fan arts trying to imagine what he might look like, and some of them are honestly incredible. And at least this time, Oda didn't butcher the villain's design, because sometimes he really does give us villains with weird proportions, skinny legs, awkward builds, but this time it really feels like he delivered the fan service we wanted, a design that actually looks badass. And not just because Imu looks Lunarian, but because the design also feels completely unique. The unusual horns, the eyes, which up until now were the main visual clue we had about Imu, appearing all around his body like some kind of actual angel. Man, there's not even much to say. I'm genuinely grateful I lived long enough to see Imu's true appearance. For now, I'm going to leave it here. Next week, we'll be back with our full analysis of the new One Piece chapter. That's it from me. See you next time. Bye.